early on with the bruised left knee. The team says the move is precautionary. Something to watch, Pete.
That investment away. Right. Thanks, Ed. All right, it's been a rough week for Democrats. Their 2020 frontrunner, Joe Biden, taking a hit in the polls, while several 2020 candidates taking controversial positions on the Betsy Ross flag on that debate. Meanwhile, President Trump having a winning week of a booming jobs report and a big salute to America. Here to break it all down, Republican strategist Joseph Pinion. Joseph, thanks for being here this morning.
Good to be here.
Love having you on Fox and Friends. So VH1 used to have this show, Best Week Ever.
Oh, yeah.
This is the worst week ever edition for Democrats. They've had a rough one, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think we look at what happened right now from the basically deciding to rain on America's parade all week long. You're looking at the fact that Trump's having an amazing week with the jobs report coming out. You look at the absolute putrid fallout from the American flag with Betsy Ross, and all these things combined make sure that right now Democrats are looking pretty bad.
Let's break all those down here. So the first one, you mentioned already, Joe Biden, fallout from that debate, having to apologize. He's having a rough week. He was their standard bearer.
I mean, look, I think we're getting back to the old Joe, the gaff man cometh. You're looking at issues right now where he went from being moderate Joe, which is why he was leading with people who are self-identified moderates. He's leading with individuals who are black voters. He was leading with individuals who realistically wanted somebody who was a little bit more moderate. Now, all of a sudden, he's abandoning them like, basically rats from a burning ship. Yes. And it's going to be very difficult right now for him to move forward. Democrats now are trying to replace him with Kamala Harris, who, God bless her, has now said that the vice president for the former first black president of the United States is a racist, or at least a little bit racist. And I think that, as when you have somebody like that saying these things, I think the old saying from Shakespeare goes, the lady doth protest too much, and I think it's a bad way to start a conversation with America.
She's even had to walk back from that. So we don't know who the front runner is right now for the Democrats. Now, on the 4th of July, President holds a rally at the Lincoln Memorial. Everyone says it's going to be political. It wasn't.
First, we were going to have tanks rolling down Pennsylvania Avenue. Then people were concerned he was going to give some type of hyper-partisan speech. And by the time they were done, all Democrats would do could take, Photoshop George Washington into a fighter jet because the president misspoke and said the airport. Maybe I'm just an old millennial, but I still remember when Obama went over to NATO and invented an entire language called Austrian, even though the people of Austria speak German. So, look, I think realistically, most people recognize what this week was about, which is about not celebrating the perfection of this country or the perfection of any man, but the fact that America is about the triumph of our principles over the imperfection of the people that found this nation.
Very
and
well
if
said.
Democrats don't understand that, then they're going to have a lot of trouble this year.
Well, and they've had trouble on that very issue because the Betsy Ross flag has been with Nike pulling the sneaker based on the pressure from Kaepernick. Yeah. Obviously, President Trump doesn't like that. But you've got Democrats supporting that decision.
I mean, look, I said it earlier this week that, again, we have a huge problem with the legacy of racism and slavery in this country. But you do not confront that legacy by burying American history. And that history starts with the American flag. And I think that people misunderstand what every iteration of that flag has meant, which was a promise to our citizens and a promise to the world, a promise to make sure that we're going to be improving every single day. I said that those 13 stars mean as much to me as the 50 stars on Old Glory today. And I think realistically, when you take a step back and look at the whole thing, if Colin Kaepernick and Democrats want to view America through the prism of pain, that's their prerogative. But as a nation, we are called to view America through the prism of promise, the promise of what we have achieved and the promise of what we still have yet to do.
Also very well said. Not to mention, Betsy Ross was herself an abolitionist. Yeah, well, minor details
the Democrats
in this conversation. Now, this is mostly cultural stuff, but then a big number dropped on Friday on a jobs report for the president.
Look, I think I keep saying it over and over again. It's the 1990s all over. It's the economy, stupid. Right now, it's going to be jobs, jobs, jobs. The economy, the economy, the economy. You're looking at close to 6 million Americans who didn't have a job when President Trump took office. I think it's going to be very difficult for Democrats to try to convince them that that job's a figment of their imagination. Retirees going to check out their 401ks have more money in that 401k than they had when they took office. It's going to be very difficult to convince them that that's just a figment of their imagination. Funny money. It's not funny money. It's real money, and it's after the opportunity for individuals to enjoy the retirement they've earned, making sure that families have the opportunity to put food on their tables, and even the people who are claiming to be working 2 to 3 jobs, realistically, that's only 5% of the people who are working right now, and those 5% are making more money from both those jobs today than they were before President Trump took office.
Yeah, wages up, manufacturing back. You talk about funny money. Democrats' favorite funny money.
Well,
your government taxpayer money.
$1 trillion giveaways every day.
That's right. every single day. All right, so overall, pretty bad week for Democrats. What grade would you give them?
Look, I'm giving Dems a C-, mostly because apparently America has been grading everything on a curve. But I think realistically, when you look at the fact that they've basically, again, rained on America's parade all week, don't seem to recognize the fact that, again, most Americans want the security and the economic boom that we're experiencing right now. All those things together really give them a pretty dismal 4th of July celebration.
Joseph, I think you're very smart, but I think you're into grade inflation. I don't know how to work this screen because I'm new here, but I would make it a D if I could. Yeah. I can't figure out the screen. Anyway, all right, President Trump on the other side of it for the week. What grade would you give him? I've got to X
Look,
out of this.
I'd say we give him a B+, A-. I think, again, the economy speaks for itself. I think the administration needs to allow it to speak for itself and also do a job of explaining to people who feel that they might be left out of that boon, who don't feel quite as rich as the economy is going, to say that, look, most of whom, by the way, voted for President Trump, to say that, look, we understand things aren't perfect, but imagine what we could do if you come to the table. When you look at African-American employment up, Hispanic employment up, again, go into communities and saying, look, it's not about what I've done for you. It's about the promise of what we can do together if people come to the table and embrace these policies in a way that's actually going to keep America going strong.
Well said again. Now I think you're a tough grader. I think an A could be merited here. But Joseph Pinion, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. God bless.
For your insight in this. Great stuff. All right. Well, could the wonder year...
Yeah, because you got to understand what kind of, like we talked about, what kind of, it's a holy war.